In about 4 years and 300 episodes, or nearly 300 episodes of this podcast, we have talked about a lot of things. We've talked about the Bible, we've talked about Christian history, we've talked about theologians and authors and prayers. We've even talked about watches. Until today, though, we've never talked about the NFL draft or going viral. Today, all of that is about to change. Stay tuned. Hello, friends. Pastor Tim Westermeyer here, Senior Pastor of St. Philip the Deacon in the western suburbs of Minneapolis. Good to be with you as always. We are approaching, I think this is episode 289, so we're approaching 300 episodes of this podcast. And for the last, what does that mean? It's been 3 or 4 years. We've been doing this every week. For some weeks, we've had a couple. And I will say, I continue to love doing it. It's been a fun way to engage with lots of people, as it turns out, from around the world. As far as things on the internet go, I'm not naive about this. I know, as I say regularly, that we haven't broken the internet yet, and we're not close to doing that. And that's okay. I still think it's important to do this for all kinds of other reasons. I will say, as an interesting sort of factoid, the episodes that have gotten the most viewership on this episode or podcast have been episodes related to watches, strangely enough, which, again, we could talk about that another time. Maybe we will. But last week, something happened here at St. Philip the Deacon that, even in internet terms, I would say genuinely you could talk about as, quote, going viral. So I just want to touch on that. Last week's episode, I teed up our final Faith and Life event for the season. That was last Thursday. April 18th, I believe, was the date, and it featured the head coach of the Minnesota Vikings, Kevin O'Connell, who was very gracious to come here during an incredibly busy time on Thursday of this week, so that's Thursday, April 25th. So 1 week after his event is the NFL draft. Those of you who follow the NFL will know that that's a big deal, and so he's busy doing what head coaches do around that time, which is figuring out who are they going to draft, how are they going to get the right draft position, and so forth. So one thing I want to say is I just want to give a genuine shout-out of gratitude to Coach O'Connell for being with us. He was a gentleman in every way. He was a wonderful, thoughtful, engaging speaker. And I would commend the conversation that he and I had, and then a bunch of questions that he was asked to you if you didn't have a chance to view it. So we will link to that. The viral thing, though, which has been an interesting sort of experience over the last few years, the last few days, is towards the end of the Q&A, and I suppose we'll probably try to figure out, maybe we can even link to that specific point in the video, someone who I think is kind of a professional analyst of quarterbacks asked a very technical question about some of the potential draft prospects at that position for the Vikings. And O'Connell gave a very thoughtful answer. And then a gentleman named Matthew Caller, who I don't follow but is on Twitter, posted that clip. And that tweet, I don't know if you call them tweets anymore on what used to be Twitter, but that post got over 2 million views. And I think it's still rising. And that led to a bunch of other journalists and bloggers and writers picking it up, including, small outlets like ESPN or SI, Sports Illustrated, or the NFL on NBC, or KFAN, a local radio station. We'll provide links to whatever of those we're able to. And it's been kind of fun to see that. And that has in turn brought more exposure to Coach O'Connell's talk, which strikes me as a good thing because he was talking about his faith. He was talking about leadership, about how he leads as a Christian. And again, I think his message is worth listening to. So I guess in some ways, this episode, and we'll figure out how to title it appropriately, related to the NFL draft, since that comes up a couple days after we're taping this, I'm just sort of adding to the organizations or enterprises or podcasts that are referencing his talk and lifting it up as something that is worth listening to. So I will also say, I mentioned this last Thursday at Faith and Life. We already have next year's season scheduled. It's going to be a wonderful season of speakers. And as it relates to sporting figures, one of the figures we'll have next year is Darryl Strawberry, who many of you will know from Major League Baseball. And we'll have more to say about that in the future. But in the meantime, I just wanted to sort of celebrate the wonderful event last Thursday. If you already tuned in, thank you. If you were here in person, thank you. If you have comments about it, I would love to hear about them below. And go Vikings, and good luck with the draft. And until next time, be well, stay in touch, and God bless.